Hi guys, this is Tim Brands with iBusiness Solutions again. Thank you so much for signing up and downloading the Strategic Navigator. I want to give you a deeper dive into this great tool that we've been using and evolving for nearly 10 years. It is an incredibly effective tool for communicating your project scope, priorities, and timelines to all of your business stakeholders and your IT team. This tool has been one of the easiest ways for us to set and manage expectations throughout an entire project. On many occasions, our clients have said things like, "I don't know how you got IT and that business department to work together." Much of our success in bridging the gap between the business and IT is in realistically setting and effectively managing everyone's expectations. So let's see how we do this with the Strategic Navigator. And as a result, I hope you will hear compliments like this as well. One of the core tenets to our methodology, the Intelligent Business Program, or the IB program for short, is to plan strategically and build incrementally. The Strategic Navigator is one of our early project deliverables that sets the expectations for this project approach in the minds of all of our executive sponsors, business stakeholders, and technical team. The Strategic Navigator is a two-page visual project plan. Again, this is one of our early project deliverables, but it is also extremely important to update it as your project moves through its releases, iterations, and sprints. The first of the two ways to set and manage expectations is focused on your business stakeholders. A gap often exists between IT and the business that the Strategic Navigator is designed to bridge. One way that is achieved is to communicate the project plan along business subject areas that are familiar to and fully understood by your business stakeholders. To set the stage for a plan strategically and build incrementally project approach, we also communicate the project plan from the beginning in terms of releases, iterations, or sprints. We try as best as possible to communicate out 4 releases. This gives our stakeholders a sense of project priorities and overall progress while they wait for their piece. As we go through the project scoping and discovery, there's almost always more than can be accomplished in 4 iterations, or items that are discussed as simply wish list items. So we always include one additional column called Future as a parking lot items for those that will not be included in the next 4 iterations. This gives our stakeholders the assurance we have not forgotten about their dreams, and as we make future updates to the Strategic Navigator, a future item can be prioritized higher and easily pulled forward into one of the upcoming iterations. To complete this portion of the Strategic Navigator, we simply fill in the matrix with pieces of project functionality, features, or data as appropriate for each business subject area for each iteration. Another core tenet of the IB program is to bridge the gap between the business and IT. So whereas the first half of the Strategic Navigator focused on the business, the second half focuses on IT's needs and work. To provide alignment and bridge that gap between the business and IT, we use the exact same releases, iterations, or sprints, the same target completion dates, and the same future bucket for hopefully obvious reasons. However, rather than breaking out project features by business subject areas, we segment IT's major work areas using the IB program's 4 execution disciplines. The first of these disciplines is the leadership discipline, which is the front-end or stakeholder-facing project discipline for all project leadership, organizational leadership, team leadership, and other project management and oversight activities. Next is the business discipline, which is the front-end discipline for all project activities related to defining and delivering business capabilities and business value throughout the project. Often the area with the most amount of work is the data discipline, which is the back-end or IT-related project discipline for all data and database-related project activities. The last discipline is the technology discipline, the back-end project discipline for all technology, operations, security, and other infrastructure-related project activities. To complete this portion of the Strategic Navigator, again, we simply fill in the matrix with pieces of project scope, features, data, or other work as appropriate for each execution discipline for each iteration. With both the business-focused portion and the IT-focused portion filled out, we simply put the 2 halves together in a nice 2-page spread for a complete Strategic Navigator. Now both the business and IT stakeholders can see what is coming with each iteration, what is expected from the other party in each iteration, and when each iteration will be completed. And there's also a parking lot for future items that are on hold for one reason or another so that no stakeholder feels like their needs are being ignored. One of the big benefits we have realized from this 2-page project roadmap is that when one stakeholder wants to prioritize a piece of project scope higher than what is depicted in the Strategic Navigator, all of the other stakeholders can easily see what trade-offs and compromises must be made across the entire project in order to accommodate a change in project priorities. Once defined, the Strategic Navigator simplifies the complexity of your project and visually communicates your project approach, your project priorities, and your project timelines to all of your stakeholders. Now let's take a look at 2 examples of actual Strategic Navigators. This first Strategic Navigator example is for a state government client that needed a data warehouse for longitudinal research purposes. In this case, the business subject areas represented 4 different state agencies plus other state agencies that fell within these 4 sectors. With dozens of stakeholders and multiple governing and advising committees, clear communication was critical to keep everyone on the same page. This Strategic Navigator was great for communicating project plans and progress to everyone involved, from state agency commissioners to technical team members. There was not a clear set of business requirements for research and analysis at the outside of this project, so we focused the business portion of the Strategic Navigator on the data sets to be loaded into this data warehouse. This worked well in this case because the business stakeholders were very accustomed to thinking about reporting in terms of which data sets they needed to connect together in order to generate specific metrics. By simply looking up and down and across the Strategic Navigator, the business stakeholders could quickly determine which reports and analytics would be supported at each stage of the project. I'll highlight a couple of things in this particular Strategic Navigator. First, the project had a critical piece of infrastructure that needed to be built and proved out, or this project would not be able to get off the ground. The linking engine needed to be built first, with the requirement of linking data from across multiple sectors. This was the sole focus of the first iteration, which, as you can see, was not the first production release. Next, the early childhood sector was a little slower in coming to the table, both in terms of providing data to the data warehouse and generating reporting requirements. As a result, we simply deferred their involvement, but also wanted everyone to be aware there were definite plans to include them in the scope of the project as it progressed. The workforce sector had important facts in terms of wages and employments, but it was determined to be of lower priority than the K-12 and higher education data included in Release 1. However, in Release 1, we still included the data to build out a couple of key hierarchies or dimensions that would be needed by the wages and employment data in Release 2, thereby still engaging the workforce stakeholders in Release 1, even though their fact data was not included until Release 2. Finally, the future column was critical for this project. As you can see, a lot of different data sets were identified as possibilities for this data warehouse. However, many of them ended up in the future column initially for reasons ranging from a new system was just being implemented to collect that data, to the data previously collected was incomplete and of poor quality, to business policies preventing the sharing of certain data. This project is right now entering into a major phase 2 effort, so we are actually in the process of creating a whole new Strategic Navigator for the new requirements and all of the new stakeholders. For the IT side of the Strategic Navigator, we again use the same releases as the business side and the 4 execution disciplines from the IB program. The one thing to highlight here is the leadership discipline. Usually our leadership discipline is heavily focused on team and project management activities, but this project had many unique aspects that required a lot of planning, stakeholder engagement, and guidance with state agencies during the early releases of the project. So the important concept to take away from this example is that there is no single right way to fill out the Strategic Navigator. Highlight whatever aspects of the project are most important for setting and managing your stakeholder expectations and communicating progress, issues, and what you need for project success. The second example I'd like to share with you is for the internal development effort for our software as a service product called the IB League. Our first iteration and our first general release was completed earlier this year in January, and we anticipated and have since completed multiple releases. The primary focus and purpose of the IB League is to provide business metrics and analytics capabilities, specifically in the area of scorecards, charts, and reports, analytics, budgets and forecasts, collaboration and coaching, and data management. So because these are the major areas of functionality in the IB League, it made sense to present the business side of the Strategic Navigator along these subject areas. Then again, we simply fill out the matrix based on our project scoping and planning. One of the critical success factors in developing the IB League was to introduce core functionality and then extend that functionality in later releases. Therefore, the Strategic Navigator communicates and reinforces the project approach when you see static reports becoming interactive reports and then becoming drillable reports with an eventual user interface to easily build out these reports. And finally, I'll highlight just a couple of things on the IT side of the Strategic Navigator. The leadership discipline needed to communicate and manage project dependencies, such as engaging our 2 beta clients so as not to delay our product launch, setting up bug tracking and knowledge base capabilities, and working with marketing to create client training videos. These were not necessarily directly related to product development, but they were certainly critical for a successful product launch. As I mentioned in the previous slide, our approach was to deliver core functionality quickly and then circle back and extend it as necessary. With this approach, we anticipated at some point we would have to make a second heavy investment in infrastructure of the product. You can see iteration 4 had quite a bit less user functionality and a lot more back-end work. In the template of the Strategic Navigator that you downloaded, there's a worksheet titled Usage Instructions with additional tips and tricks on identifying the information necessary to fill out this model. I highly recommend you read through the usage instructions. After that, if you still have questions, please email us at info@ibusiness-solutions.com. This email address can also be found in the page footer of the template you just downloaded. Well, that's it. I hope you find great value in the Strategic Navigator and check back for more tools from the Intelligent Business program that we will be making available.